Everybody. We will be recording this training today. We're going to give folks a couple minutes to trickle in. We're expecting a really big group today, and we're looking forward to our very first 2023 point in time count volunteer training that is remote. So we're in this whole new world and utilizing all of the methods of communication. So really appreciate everyone being here today.
And I want to note we're recording this, and we have closed captions running. So if you need closed captioning, I think there's a way that you can show them or hide them at the bottom of your screen.
Mine shows up at the top, but depending on what device you're on, it might be in different places.
Perfect.
Okay, while folks are still trickling in, just a couple FYIs. Hopefully everybody who is in attendance at this training today completed the volunteer registration survey. We reached our goal of over 200 volunteers, which is very exciting. However, word of mouth tends to complicate this process in ensuring that we know who is expected to or who is anticipating showing up for the kickoff. So if folks are here and have not completed the volunteer registration survey, if you could just drop your information in the chat or send an email to contracostacoc@cchelp.org. And Jamie, if you wouldn't mind plopping that email in the chat too, that would be helpful. We'll reach out to you. We just want to make sure we have all of your information and get you partnered up on a team. Hopefully everybody who's in attendance today also completed the disaster service worker volunteer registration form. This is for any participants or volunteers who are not county staff. This gives you liability coverage for your volunteer assignment in the event that anything were to happen. And we're also hopeful that everybody has downloaded the ArcGIS Field Maps app. So we will have a demo today at the very end of the training, and we really would appreciate if everybody is able to follow along. Okay, I still see a handful of folks trickling in. I don't see anyone in the waiting room. So a couple other logistics. We request that everybody attends the full training today. I know an hour and a half is long, but we got a lot of meaty material to cover. And then again, as I mentioned, we have the demo of how to utilize the data collection app at the very end of this training. It is not a complicated process, I promise, but it's really helpful to be here to follow along, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you have. The demo, we are asking everybody to participate on your smartphones. So if you're logged into this training on your phone, and if you have access to logging in on either a computer or an iPad, that would make the flow of this training go a lot better for you. So just wanted to give a reminder. For anybody who knows who their partner is already, just want to give them an extra nudge. We need to make sure all volunteers attend a training, so you and your partner. This is our last and only remote training. And then we have one final training that's in person in Concord on Friday. We did not have terrific attendance for the in-person trainings last week. Mother Nature ruined those plans for us. So, and there were a lot of crises happening in our community. So we wanted one more opportunity to bring folks together. The hands-on and the interactive demo is really helpful for some volunteers. So Jamie, if you also wouldn't mind, I know I'm giving you a lot of asks, dropping that information on the chat in terms of the address, the time, any other details you think might be helpful.
Yes, and Jamie, I just wanted to note, I put the DSW form in the chat, and I also have put a copy of the handouts that are going to be referenced in this training, and I will add the training information for Friday.
Yes, on the 20th. Thank you so much. Okay.
So a quick question. Do you need me to be present on Friday?
Friday would be fantastic. More information to come, Teresa.
Okay, and then what time is the training? Do you know?
It's 12:30 to 2. It's over at the core offices, so 2380 Bissell Lane in Concord. It's right behind the H3 offices.
Okay, 12:30 to 2. Okay.
Yep. And we just scheduled that last minute. So my apologies that we're getting this information out to everybody.
That's fine.
In the 11th hour.
Okay, I will be on. Let me know when you need me.
All right. And then just a couple other logistics, again, as more folks are rolling in, we are anticipating a really large group today. So we do not have a lot of capacity to drill down into the weeds on certain details or answer a handful of questions. Please utilize the chat and we will do our best to monitor the chat and to communicate and respond in the chat. We might pull a couple particular questions out of the chat and raise them with the entire group, but we will not be able to get to everybody's questions independently one-on-one with the group. So we will also ask everybody to stay muted except for the facilitators today. And again, utilize that chat function. We're here to answer all of your questions. When we get to the smartphone demo, if folks are really stuck or not getting it or need assistance, we are available for an extra 30 minutes after this training. So some of the staff can hang tight and provide you direct support. If that is not an option for you, we really encourage you to attend the Friday in-person training. We can really provide technical support and one-on-one support as well in that venue. Okay, I know there were a lot of logistics, but welcome. We're really happy to have you here. We are thrilled that you're interested in being a point in time count participant. Jamie, do we have the ability to do a poll? So we're going to kick us off with a poll really quickly here.
Hold, please.
No worries. I'll just describe it really quick. We're interested in understanding our audience for today and want to see how many folks have been engaged with the point in time count in Contra Costa in the past.
Jamie Schechter, I think because you logged in too, you might have to either make me the host again or activate the polls.
We got a lot of cooks in the
Let me see if I can do
the
poll activation. That feels easier.
So it's the one about past participation.
Oh, it just popped up.
Woo.
Thank you so much. We got the Jamie Dream Team on today.
Apparently we are of one mind today, or one account.
Okay, we got 42 people, 43 people have answered. How many folks do we have on the call? Over 70 right now, so we'll just hang tight for another minute. We have a pretty even split so far. If folks are willing to complete the poll as you're logging in and getting settled, we would appreciate it. Just want to figure out how much we should spend on the background information around the point in time count.
Looks like answers are slowing down, so I can end the poll.
Perfect. We got 50 answers. And then, Jamie, are you able to share the results or is that something I have to do?
Nope, should be shared.
Okay, perfect. So we actually have a little more folks. About 58% of the attendees today have not participated in Contra Costa's pit count. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your support and we will give you all the information to make this a successful experience. Okay, so we have a handful of facilitators who are going to guide this training. My name's Jamie Klinger. I'm the Research and Evaluation Manager with H3. I live, eat, sleep, dream, and have nightmares about the point in time count for about a quarter of the year every year. But the point in time count is a really exciting activity. So I feel honored to be a part of this effort in Contra Costa County. We also have Dana Ewing, who's a planner evaluator with H3. We have Jamie Jeanette, our community engagement specialist with H3. We have Morgan March, who's with the County Department of IT. And then we have Teresa Boone-Dade, who's the volunteer coordinator with the health department. Okay, so to kick us off with a little bit of context, why are we all here? Why are we asking for support and help with our point in time count? The point in time count is a requirement by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So the count is a count of both sheltered and unsheltered people who are experiencing homelessness on a single night during the last 10 days in January. Any community or homeless service provider network that receives federal funds from HUD is required to conduct an annual count of people who are sheltered and a biannual count of people who are unsheltered. Again, in that last 10 days of January. There are a handful of other requirements that every community needs to ensure that they abide by. All COCs must ensure that during the pit count, people are only counted once. This is why our methods look the way that they look, is because it's so important that multiple teams do not count the same person more than once. So it's really important that we have teams assigned to very specific areas. And this also has to do with the timing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So why are we asking folks to be here on this morning of the count or at the crack of dawn? It's also a requirement that we're protecting the privacy and the safety of both the volunteers and the people who are experiencing both sheltered and unsheltered homelessness. And then a further requirement is why you all are here today. We have to ensure that we are training all volunteers for how to conduct the pit count, and that includes project staff, community volunteers, and we just need to make sure everybody knows the methodology, what to look for, who to include, and how to use the data collection application. So in Contra Costa, the pit looks very specific every year. HUD actually gives us a little bit of wiggle room to customize this to our community and our needs and our homeless, both sheltered and unsheltered population. Contra Costa is an overachiever, and we are a community that likes to conduct both the unsheltered and sheltered count annually. So just as a reminder, the unsheltered count is only required every other year, but we do conduct this every year. The hours of the observational pit count are selected in an effort, again, to reduce that duplication of the unsheltered population. We totally understand that it's quite hard to canvass in the dark. It's important that we are tracking and identifying people when they're in their sleep settings, before they're out and about accessing services. Services are not quite open at that hour. So again, just making sure people are not moving around during this activity. We also utilize GIS tools, and GIS stands for Geographic Information System tools, which allows us to gather precise information so that we can conduct city level estimates for our stakeholders and partners. And then the data from the pit count that's collected is used to determine funding, needs, and allocation of resources. So without getting too deep into the weeds, there's two primary components of the pit count. So first, there's the sheltered count. This takes place on January 24th of this year. This is a count of all people who are homeless and in a shelter setting. That includes warming shelters, emergency shelters, and transitional housing. Most of our homeless service providers who provide these typical services, they already enter their data into our database, which is HMIS. That stands for the Homeless Management Information System. So it's actually quite easy for us to have a good view of who fits within this shelter count category. We pull that information directly out of our database. For the handful of providers and partners who do not enter their data, we connect with those folks one-on-one, we gather their information on a spreadsheet, and we aggregate that with all of the rest of our information. So it's very broad and comprehensive. For the unsheltered count, this is what we're here to train on today. So this is taking place on January 25th. This is an observation only count. So we are not engaging and interacting with folks during this count. We are just observing whatever we're seeing in the community. A handful of community volunteers will be in cars, and then we have core and outreach staff teams that will be on foot canvassing between these hours of 5:30 and 9 a.m. Then after the observational count, we conduct surveys with just a sample of the population experiencing both sheltered and unsheltered homelessness. This takes place February 6th through 17th. We have support gathering this data from core service providers and a handful of administrative staff at H3 or other partners who are excited to participate in this activity as well. So there's two different types of volunteers for the observational count. As I mentioned, we have outreach teams, and these teams are very specific with specific responsibilities. These are people who have extensive knowledge of both encampments in the county or have experience conducting outreach in their day-to-day work. These teams are typically comprised of people who work very closely with the unsheltered population. They're frontline workers, they're potentially law enforcement, or they're people who have recently experienced unsheltered homelessness themselves. So they are assigned to areas that have a higher density of encampments in our community. Again, they may need to canvass by foot to get out of their cars, to go down an embankment, to go into the brush, whatever that might look like. And we also just want to be really mindful about potential safety concerns. So again, they have stronger knowledge and particular expertise in their assigned areas. So they know what to look for. They know if there's a loose dog. They know if there's a situation that they need to avoid most of the time. So these folks, again, as I mentioned, they're going to drive or walk through every named and unnamed street within their Canvas assignment. They're going to enter all data on people experiencing unsheltered homelessness or sleep settings, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the training. And they enter that into their mobile tool. And then outreach teams, and I'm going to say this many times throughout this presentation, so hopefully that message sticks. Outreach teams are the only teams that are permitted to exit their vehicle to look for hidden encampments or areas for further investigation. We do not want every type of team to be exiting their vehicles. Then the other team, type of team for the observational count are community teams. And this is actually the largest majority of the teams that we have. Contra Costa County is a big county. It's actually the size of Rhode Island. So we have to ensure that we are covering as much square footage of the entire county as possible. So for community teams, this is for volunteers who have little to no experience working directly with the unsheltered population. You don't need to have that expert knowledge in a particular area, but your support and your commitment to preventing and ending homelessness in our county is hopefully what brought you here to be a participant. So these teams are going to be paired up. The teams themselves, the members will identify one driver and one observer. These folks will just drive through each named street on your map, or also you have the ability to go behind businesses or drive through parking lots, but we do not want you to exit your car for safety concerns. And then the community volunteers will also be tracking all people and sleep settings using this mobile tool that we're going to demo at the end of this training. Okay, before we switch gears and talk about what to count, I just want to track our chat. Any questions coming in so far? Anything we can clarify for you? Okay, not hearing anything. I'm going to hand it over to Dana. And Dana, you just let me know when you want me to navigate the slides.
Sounds great. So it's great that so many of you have done PIT before, and it sounds really easy to just think that like it sounds kind of like a no-brainer how to identify what to count, but it's actually, there's a lot of nuances. So we want to make sure we're all doing the same thing. So we're going to talk through some examples and kind of spell out what might feel obvious, or maybe there are some ahas that aren't so obvious. So can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So as Jamie mentioned, we are looking for sleep settings and people. And the point of the point in time count is to identify as many people as we can that are unsheltered and sheltered the night of the count. We do it, as she said, early in the morning because we're trying to identify people in their sleep settings because there's less chance of duplication. So you're more likely to see sleep settings than people. But what we want to make sure we're doing is counting people and sleep settings, but not duplicating. So when you see a person, you're going to, if you see a person outside of a sleep setting, you're going to drop your pin and describe two characteristics. They're a guess on their age and a guess on their gender. And this is to help us deduplicate. It's not going to be used for helping us understand the population's demographics. We do a survey later on. So you're going to pin a person, or if there's 2 or 3 people, you have an option to add multiple people. And then you go on to the next. If you see a sleep setting, again, this is on the app. It's super easy. It directs it for you. You'll click on sleep setting. You'll drop your pin, click sleep setting, and then it will ask if it's a tent, RV, car, or makeshift encampment. And what you're going to do is, if you can see inside of a sleep, so this is a new thing for the folks that have done PIT before. The more we're sort of defining some specifics here. If you see a sleep setting and you can look inside and you can see people, you will count the people. If you look inside and you don't see people and you can tell there's no one in that sleep setting, you're not going to count that sleep setting. So that's a new thing. So if you see a sleep setting and you can't see inside, you're going to assume there's people inside. If you see a sleep setting and you do see people inside, you're going to count just those people. So that's a new piece to the guidelines that we've provided over the years. So these are some examples. Again, it seems like it'd be obvious, but we just want to spell out some examples so we're all on the same page about how to pin and how to identify settings. So in this situation, we see inside and we see a sleep setting and we see a person, and we can assume that there aren't other people in that setting. So you're going to count that one person in that sleep setting. You're not going to count the sleep setting. Okay. There we go. And then in this setting, in this situation, you can see inside, it looks like a vehicle that probably has been slept in, but there's no one in there at that time. It could be you pinned somebody 100 feet down the road who was that person sleeping in there. So that's why we don't want to duplicate. If you counted a person, you don't want to count the sleep setting because you know there's no one in there. You could have counted that person when they were walking around. Okay. And in this situation, this is more likely a setting where our outreach teams will be going. Most of the community members won't be canvassing where you're going to have a dense setting like this. But here you would count each tent, each setting as a sleep setting because you don't see people and you can't see inside. So you're just going to pin each of those will be a separate pin drop and a separate sleep setting. Any questions?
And then again, this is additional information, but mostly relevant for those outreach teams. If you have knowledge about how many people are typically in these sleep settings, but again, you cannot see, that is information that we do not use for the pit because everybody's using the same methods. We can't see, and we cannot assume that those 3 people that you know are usually in that tent are in that tent. We're just going to track the sleep setting.
Okay.
Erica, go ahead with your question.
So,
We'll get to you next, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, so if I see people, I count people. If I see somewhere where people might be sleeping and I don't see anyone in there, then I don't do anything. If I see some place where I can't see in it, but people might be in there, then I count that as a sleep setting. Is that right?
That's
That is
correct.
perfect.
Okay.
And I know it's a lot of details. It's just that we want to make sure we're doing the exact same thing. So you summed that up wonderfully.
Joe?
Same question, same clarification. Good answer. Got it.
Okay, next slide. So now we're going to spell out it's difficult to point to people and be like, I think that person's homeless. I think they're not. There's a lot of assumptions we have to make. And I laugh because when I look at these characteristics of individuals, I think of my teenage children and they fit many of these on a regular basis. So you have to use your best judgment, identify, if they've got a few of these characteristics, they're likely homeless. If it's one, you use your judgment. So I'm just going to read through these. The first is that if somebody's carrying a lot of belongings, including shopping bags, backpacks, sleeping bags, or blankets, you can maybe make that assumption. If they have disorganized movements or appearance, inappropriately dressed or overdressed or underdressed for the weather, smudges, stains, or tears in clothing or shoes, a disheveled, ungroomed appearance, anyone sleeping outside or lying down in a public area, somebody pushing a stroller without a baby or a shopping cart with a lot of belongings, someone riding a bicycle while carrying many belongings, and anyone sleeping in an automobile. And again, none of those alone is an aha, that person's definitely experiencing homelessness, but you kind of use your judgment. And if there's a few of those, then you can make that assumption. And sleep settings, if you see a car or van or truck that looks like it's used for sleeping because it appears to not be running, it's overflowing with belongings, or it has tarps or tents over them, or there's steamed windows from people sleeping inside on a cold morning, you can assume that's a sleep setting. If it's an RV that's not redesigned to be a sleep setting, a habitation, I should say, and it's not connected to code compliant utilities such as water, sewer, trash, or power. And then any tent or makeshift tent that you can see people can sleep in. And anybody want to add some ideas here? We got a lot of input from CORE and our people with lived experience to get these categories or characteristics. Okay, next slide. And now where to look. Again, most of you are community drivers and teams. So these are sort of just ideas about where to look, because it's not just on the streets. You're going to look in parks and marinas and like go into the driveways and into the parking areas, abandoned lots, fields, or areas along creeks, freeways, and railroad tracks, near convenience stores and gas stations, at public transportation, any malls or shopping centers, and especially near the loading areas or the trash bins, parking lots of shelters, soup kitchens, and other community centers that provide services, outside hospitals, medical facilities, and health centers, somewhere where benefits are offered, outside libraries and churches, at recycling centers, payphones, and anywhere with a 24-hour establishment that has parking, and sometimes places like gyms have showers, and grocery stores and fast foods where people can access some of the resources there. And I understand there's a casino in West County, and there's conversation that there are quite a few families that sleep in that parking lot. So if somebody has that area, keep that on your radar. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
I also just want to say I see a handful of questions that are coming in through different modes in the chat. And we actually have some very clear examples that we're going to demonstrate with folks, because these nuances actually get quite tricky. There's some very obvious, like I know exactly what to count in this scenario. And then there's other times where it does get a little bit more confusing. So in the demo part of this training, we will go through a handful of examples for identifying people and identifying sleep settings. We're going to see if we can trick the group. Okay, so moving on to the next section, what to expect the day of the count. I'm a person that appreciates a lot of information that helps me feel comfortable with whatever my ask is. So we're doing better this year to get folks as much information as possible before they're showing up to the kickoff site on that morning of the count. So teams are receiving multiple communications right now from H3 staff. So hopefully a handful of folks on this call have already received emails from Dana, from Yesenia, from myself, maybe from the Contra Costa COC email. And what we're doing right now is working on identifying the best Canvas assignment if folks have not selected where they want to be in the community, identifying and pairing partners, and then communicating about your kickoff site location before the observational count. The observational count is in 1 week, so we're in our final stretch in the 11th hour. Please make sure you're checking your email regularly, because we are hoping for pretty prompt responses so that we can get you and your team and your partner all squared away and then move on to the rest of the 200 volunteers. All teams will have their Canvas assignment emailed to them by today. I do just want to be mindful that there's a handful of folks that have not completed training. So we were really optimistic that last week's in-person trainings would have high attendance. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the weather had other plans. So we are going to be verifying that everybody who is in attendance today is checked off our list, and then you will shortly after receive your Canvas assignment, your partner information, and your kickoff location. It might come in by tomorrow though. So because we're doing this remote training and have such high attendance, we didn't want to assume that somebody who had volunteered is actually going to participate in the training and be able to fulfill that entire commitment. So information is coming today and tomorrow. If you do not receive your assignment information and your partner and whatnot, or if you have any just general questions, you can email the Contra Costa COC email at cchealth.org. That comes to Jamie Jeanette and myself, and we'll respond as quickly as we can. We are sending out your Canvas assignments, so the literal maps that we want you to canvas on that morning, but you don't need to print them. We are providing hard copies of all of the materials. We're just giving you this information in advance, so you know how to navigate, you have an idea about how to plan or where to start, what that might look like. Again, that will just ease any anxiety or confusion on that morning of the count. So what to bring, depending on the type of team that you are assigned to, you might be thinking about some different things, but in general, everybody's asked to bring a cell phone, a smartphone, either your iPhone or an Android device is what you're collecting the data on. So really key component to have that along with you. Flashlights are really helpful for both sets of teams. We are providing flashlights for all of the outreach teams. So we will have those available at the kickoff sites, and we will hand them out and just ask that you return them when you bring your packet and you're all finished with your assignment. The pit happens during rain or shine. I think Mother Nature got all of her weary drearies out last week, and maybe a little bit more today, but the forecast is looking very promising. So I'm putting the positive vibe out there for us right now. But if for some reason it is raining, we do still conduct the pit. So for outreach teams specifically who will be exiting their vehicles, please bring an umbrella or a poncho, or just be really mindful about the clothes that you're wearing and have lots of layers. For community teams, make sure your tires are in good shape and that you have windshield wipers that are doing pretty good. Again, just to be really safe and practical in the event that it does rain. For outreach teams, we also recommend comfortable shoes. And then for everybody, we recommend bringing some kind of either portable car cell charger or a backup power pack. Again, depending on how much you're using that mobile application, dropping a lot of pins, maybe you forgot to charge it right before, we don't want to run into the scenario where we can't collect that data in the app. We do have a backup plan that we'll go over, but just really important to be prepared for that scenario. Okay, so we have 3 different kickoff sites, and we're really excited to be able to do this again this year for folks who participated in the 2022 pit count because we were still in the thick of our COVID response and trying to mitigate the spread of COVID. Folks just deployed from their homes, but we are asking everybody to come to one of these 3 kickoff sites, and the email communications will designate which site you should show up at on that morning of January 25th. And then this is where you're signing in and you're receiving all of your packet materials, which we'll talk about. So we will email you this and we will also send out all of the slides. But if you want to take a screenshot or a picture, this is your information. I am the kickoff lead in West County. Dana is the kickoff lead in Central County, and Yesenia is the kickoff lead in East County. And then we have technical support with the County Department of IT also at each of these sites to do one-on-one TA for the app if anybody has any questions or concerns. I do just want to note that it's really important for folks to show up on time for this observational count and attendance at the kickoff site. So if for some reason you are either running late or you can no longer participate for whatever reason, please just keep us posted. We understand life happens, things come up that you might not have anticipated, but we do have partners and assignments very clearly lined up. And if we need to match up your partner with a new partner or assign folks to a new area, we like to do that troubleshooting right away and get folks deployed out into the field. So please just communicate with your team leads, or any one of us is totally fine. You can call us or you can text us. Okay, so then the schedule of that morning on January 25th, between 5:30 and 6 a.m., there's a lot going on. We really encourage people to arrive on time. And I will just be really blunt about this too. We have the most teams in our central kickoff site. So there will be many folks that are going to be coming in, signing in, having questions, needing additional support. So the earlier you get there, the better. And then we are hoping for a good flow to get you signed in, get you the information you need within your packet, ensure that your app is downloaded and you're logging in with your new credentials, and then you and your partner can head on your way. We will have coffee and snacks at each of the kickoff sites, so a little bit of a treat for being there so early in the morning and to get your engines revved up and ready to observe. And then you will find your partner, you will receive your team packet. We also have pens and highlighters in case you want to track any of your hard copy maps or make notes on anything. You will, again, log into your app. There are specific credentials, so a username and password on your packet that is designated to your team. So we'll do a demo today with just training credentials, but on that morning, you'll need to log in with a different set of information of that username and new password. We also ask that you use the bathroom before you hit the road, and then you're going to leave in your driver's car. During the hours of 6 to 9, you're going to conduct that Canvas assignment. You're going to go down every road within your map. And then you're going to, again, use your data collection app to drop pins and to observe the unsheltered homelessness in your particular area. We are asking folks to try to head back by 9 o'clock if at all possible. If you're out in the field and you're like, there's no way I'm gonna get through this whole assignment, we haven't even covered these other 2 maps, just give us a call. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns that you have, reach out to your team lead, and then we will either give you guidance or recommendations, or maybe we'll even deploy a team that ended early to one area that you're not able to canvas. So just keep us up to date with what's going on. And then hopefully by 9 a.m. you're driving back to your original kickoff site, you're returning in your packets, and then you're all done. Then you're good to go and maybe ready for a nap, because I know everybody was up really early that day. Okay, so the packet that I'm talking about will include a handful of different materials. So what you see on the right-hand side of this slide is an example of what one of the grids looks like that you will be assigned to. So you might not be able to see every single road name on here, but our ask is to canvas every road. So when you're on the app, you can zoom in much more clearly. So the person who is not driving and who's navigating the app can really help the driver figure out if they're going down the right streets or not. And then on your packet map, so what you see right here, there may be hotspots as well. So this is old known data to us where there might be unsheltered homelessness or encampments in your area. So that's just more of like a helpful tip for teams. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's unsheltered homelessness there today. So this is data from about a year ago, maybe even a little bit more. So we want to make sure you're really navigating those particular areas. But those pins are not already dropped. So if you're in Alvarado Park and you see an encampment or a person experiencing unsheltered homelessness or a sleep setting, you're still going to want to drop that pin even if you see like a hotspot on your map. We need to make sure that we're gathering that updated data. So your Canvas assignments will also have an overview because we typically hand out multiple maps and sometimes it's a little hard to put all of that together to understand, well, what's my full coverage area that you're asking me to canvas that day. So you'll see a lay of the land, and in the emails that we're sending out, we are also providing that, again, just to help with planning purposes. You will have contact information to reach out to your kickoff site leader and GIS support. So the same information that was in a few previous slides will also be in your packet. So you can, again, call us, text us, whatever you need. We also have a hard copy observation tool. You just never know what might happen if your phone will die or if there's no cell service and you can't get your pins to upload, or if there's just any technology issue. We want to make sure that you're still canvassing that assignment and you have a backup plan to collect that data. So we'll go over that again right after the app demo. There's also a how-to, so the same app handout with step-by-step instructions for how to log into the app, how to drop a pin, how to navigate the questions that you're prompted to answer. The same one that you received in preparation for today's training will also be in your packet. So we're giving you every tool for you to be successful in this endeavor. And then there's a frequently asked questions handout for troubleshooting on the morning of the count. What if you get in a car accident? What if you don't like your partner? What if you see a sketchy situation? How are you navigating all of those different potential concerns? Okay, and then we just wanted to show folks, this is the type of information that we are asking people to observe and how to collect this data. So this is an example of our hard copy tool, and this will be in your packet. We want to understand what you're observing and when you're observing it and where you're observing it. So people in sleep settings, we describe the sleep settings and we describe the people to the best of our abilities. But again, we'll go over that in the demo. Okay, I'm going to hand the next section over to Jamie Jeanette, and she's going to talk about safety and emergency guidelines.
Thank you. Hi all, Jamie Jeanette. You probably get lots of emails from me. So I wanted to talk folks through, I know this group is a mix of people who may do direct service already and community members that may not have experience working with people with lived experience. People experiencing homelessness. And this actually applies to everyone. So for folks doing this work, this is probably not new, but it's worth reminding folks. So if you take one takeaway from this, it's trust your spidey sense, right? So if you're in a situation and something just doesn't feel right, it's okay to leave. Even if you're in your car and something just doesn't seem right, it's okay to leave. So we're asking, as Jamie said, we're asking people that are community volunteers to stay in your cars at all times. And there's a couple of reasons for this. So one is our goal is really just to observe. We're not trying to interact with people. We're really just trying to do an observational count. But it's also for safety. So part of why we don't have community members getting out and going into encampments is because it's literally like walking into someone's living room. So think about if you like came out of your bathroom and there was some total stranger standing in your house, you might have some big feelings and might react. So really it's for the safety of our clients and also for you to just stay in your car. We're asking folks not to engage in conversation or offer anyone anything, even if they're asking you. For clients, I don't know if we have any, sorry, I don't know if we have any staff here, but if there are like outreach staff where you normally are doing some sort of outreach in a community, during the count, we're really asking you to just focus on doing the count. You're getting in, you're getting out. You can come back later if that's like normally what you do, but like while we're doing the count, you have a lot of territory and the point is really just to get through it. If you have any challenges, right? So you see something that you're not quite sure if you should like report to somebody, call your team leader. If it's non-life threatening, right? If you see somebody that is hit by a car or unconscious, like call 911. But this is really not a time, you might see some things that you might see some illegal activity. You might see people doing drugs, you might see people selling drugs, you might see prostitution. This is not a time when you're going to be making calls to the police, right? We are literally just here to observe. If you see somebody in danger, report that to 911, but otherwise really just observe and go. And if you're not sure, call your team leader and they can help advise you about what best to do. Anything else you want to say about safety and emergency, Jamie?
Nope, you covered it. Thanks so much.
Okay, great. Next slide. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is sort of mental preparation. So I'm assuming you all are here because you care about people experiencing homelessness. You want to do something. This is like a very tangible way to do something. You might see some things that are really, really hard. You are going to see people potentially living in some very dire situations, and you won't be able to fix that while you're out there. You might afterwards have some feelings of just like, it might kind of stick with you. That is part of what happens with the pit. It might not happen for everyone, but just know that, you know, it might be really hard to see up close and personal how people are living sometimes. The other thing I'll say is, and so if that happens, if you have some lingering feelings, call your team leader and we can listen. We can also connect you to other resources if you need to. But the other thing I'll say is it's totally possible that you will not see a single person experiencing homelessness while you are canvassing. That is not a waste of time. So sometimes I think folks do this and they're like, what the heck? I spent all this time getting trained. I spent all this time driving around for nothing. It's not actually nothing. Part of what we do is make sure we have a complete canvas of our county. It's important that no data is actually data. So it's you did not fail if you don't see anybody. That's actually really important for us to know. So you're actually more likely to not see anybody than see things that are really, really hard. So just be prepared. You might not have the experience you're expecting. And we're always happy to talk if you have feelings about that. Anything you want to add, Jamie?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you so much, Jamie. Okay, so we are.
I'm gonna interrupt really quick because Raina and I are over here and we're talking about how great this whole conversation and how important it is to bring in that mental side of things. So we just wanted to say good job on that.
Yes.
That's all. We appreciate it.
Jamie Klinger, her team made these slides and thought through this.
That was all Jamie Jeanette. She's not taking enough credit. Okay, so we are moving into the section of our training that gets interactive and exciting, and we're going to teach everybody how to be experts in the data collection app. So these are just a couple like really important reminders and expectations as we flow into the next section. I will say this is a lot easier to do in person. We're doing the best that we can to navigate this mostly newly remote world that we live in. So we're just going to see how this goes, and then we have some backup plans as always. So we are requiring all folks, whether you're a driver or the data collection identified partner, we want everybody to follow along, to use your phone, to go through the demo. There could be things that happen on the morning of the count. Maybe you're a driver and your partner doesn't show up and somebody else is going to be a driver. So now you need to collect the data. We need you to feel comfortable with this process. So please
Jamie.
stay. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to interrupt for 1 second. Somebody asked for a quick bio break before we move into the demo.
Yes, we are going
have-
to in
oh,
just
good.
1 second.
Oh,
Sorry.
good. I couldn't remember
Yep,
when it was.
Right
Sorry.
after this slide, no problem. I know it is a little bit of a long training too, so we really appreciate everybody just hanging tight for just another moment. So yes, we want everybody to stay through the whole duration of this training. I already mentioned we really are hoping everybody follows along. So this is not your time to multitask. We will know on the morning of the observational count when you are totally confused that you didn't have an opportunity to do this one-on-one, step-by-step with us. If you need assistance during this demo, please type your questions into the chat. Raising your hand, these slides were mostly developed for the in-person meetings and trainings. So we won't be able to get to everybody's hand raise through Zoom, but what you can do is type your question. If we're seeing a lot of themes of similar questions, we will address those questions with the whole group, and then we will directly message folks one by one. We are all going to keep our eyes peeled on that chat. Again, if you have more questions or this just is not working out for you, we do have another in-person training on Friday. I might have already said this, so I apologize if this is a repeat. But for all folks who are attending today's training, we are asking you to arrive promptly at your kickoff site at 5:30 so that we can just make sure everybody's on the same page about the app and feeling really good about that process. So we'll also have that one-on-one support available for you on that morning of. Okay, I know that was a lot. We're just asking you to hang tight. Don't leave the training. We're going to take a quick 5-minute bio break. So it's 9:47. We're going to ask everybody to be back by 9:52. And then we're going to go through the application step by step. Any other thoughts, team? Perfect. And then while folks are taking a bio break, this may be a good opportunity to answer any questions that folks might have. So I'm happy to hang tight. You have other H3 staff members. Any glaring questions or confusion from the slides so far? Perfect. Okay. And I just want to remind folks that there's a handout that's in the chat as well for the step-by-step how-to go through the demo with us. That was emailed to you. It can also be downloaded directly from the chat. Might be helpful if folks have 2 screens. I know that's a little bit tricky. It won't be as important to look at the actual slide deck as we're doing this step-by-step though. We are also assuming, I see a couple questions in the chat, that everybody has their app downloaded already. So if folks are not navigating that well, just drop your info in the chat and we'll get you what you need. It is the ArcGIS Field Maps app. So I'll type that in right now. Does anyone need assistance downloading the app? Hopefully folks are feeling confident with that first step.
Jamie, I don't know if you see people are asking for the login for the app. We're gonna get to that, right?
Yes, and it's in your handout as well. So we have some test credentials that we are providing for folks. Again, these are just for the training today. Morgan will go over that level of detail with everybody. But there will be, we're going to switch gears and go to the handout. So Morgan's going to go through step by step and get everybody logged in. Morgan, do you want me to go ahead and share that slide so folks are starting,
Yeah,
or?
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't need to sign in just yet. We are going to get to that. The handout that was dropped in the chat, I noticed that some people are saying they're having issues downloading it. It is on the hub, so you can download it there. But I'm also going to do a screen share, and we're going to go through that handout step by step. So you don't have to sign in just yet.
And we just hit 9:52, so hopefully most folks are back from their bio break. Morgan, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and
Okay.
then you should have permissions to share your screen to kick us off into the demo section.
Perfect. Okay, hopefully that showed up. Working with two screens, so let me know when it pops up.
There we go, Morgan.
Perfect.
And I saw that Bear just dropped the login information in the chat as well.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna disconnect my second screen. It's not liking this. Okay. Can you still see my screen?
We
There
can't,
are
but
some-
there's a block blurb at the very top.
Let me try again. And maybe this time it'll work.
It's still showing up, Morgan, but it's pretty small. I
There's
think you can go ahead and
something,
navigate. Oh,
there's
oh,
something-
went away. You're good.
we're good? Okay. All right, hopefully it stays good. Okay, so for most of you that have downloaded the app, for those that you have not, this is going to be the icon that you're going to see for Androids in the Google Play Store. I believe that's where you download your apps. It should look exactly the same. This training is mostly just for iOS. However, for Android users, you're going to have almost the same experience. You might have a button that might be in a different spot, but there shouldn't be any issues following along. And if there are, please let us know in the chat and we can try and troubleshoot. So you've downloaded the app, you found it on your home screen, and then this is where you're going to do your login. You're going to click the white sign in for ArcGIS Online. And then when it asks for the username, you can use test pit user 1 or 2. It does not matter which one. And the password is going to be the same for both. Like Jamie was saying, on the day of, you are going to be given account specific credentials. So you can use this for the rest of today if you still want to play around with it. If you're joining with your phone and you just need to follow along, it will still be available for you to do any test pins and check it out for the rest of the day. So once you have signed in, you're going to see two things. And the first thing,
Sign-in page.
yes.
Thank you. We do also have the login information in the chat as well.
Give it a minute.
And then maybe we can just get some thumbs ups. Are folks all logged in? Are we getting there?
No. Can you like a 3-second, give us a minute?
No problem. And then when folks are logged in, the thumb raised. So we'll just hang tight for just a moment.
When I downloaded this app, it allowed me to set up a whole new Gmail account to do that. Now I don't have a way to sign in with your account. How do I do that?
Hey, Carl, can you put that information in the chat and we'll give you some direct one-on-one support?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, and I just want to acknowledge that technology is a little tricky. Doing the remote training and getting you all up to speed, guiding us along as Morgan guides folks along. So we understand people might be at a little bit different places. We're gonna do our best to have a slow flow of this section. But again, please put your chat questions. Please put your questions into the chat and then we will do our best to navigate this with you.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going. Once you do have that login, you're gonna see 2 items in the gallery. And the first thing that we're gonna want you to do is you're gonna turn on the My Tracks option. You will toggle it on, and a couple of things are gonna happen. For those of you that have not used the app before, you might be prompted for the motion and fitness. You'll hit OK. It's going to ask for notifications. You're going to hit allow, and then it will also ask you about your location, and you're going to do allow while using the app. For some people, all 3 of them hit all at once, but it will prompt you for that. And then once you have that toggled on, it's going to ask you for a time for the tracking. We're going to go ahead and do 8 hours for this event, day of. If you get there a little bit early, around 5:30, it'll go until about 9:30. But if it's taking you a little bit longer to do your canvas, we're going to want to have that extra time. So go ahead and select the 8 hours. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open the PIT 2023 observational count map. This is the map that's going to have some pins already in there, depending on where you are currently. It should center on your location. If you see some red points that are already in there, those are some test points that some people have already done from the other trainings. If you did not turn on the My Tracks, that is okay. If you just go straight to the PIT 2023 observational count map itself, it's still going to prompt you for that location tracking. If you opt to not do tracking, you cannot fill out the survey. And the reason that we're tracking everybody is, one, for safety. We kind of know where you are out in the field as you're doing your canvas. So if you have any issues, we could be like, okay, this is where they're located. We can walk you through some things. And it's also to help us understand how far people are going through their grids, so that next year we can have a better idea of, is it too much to have these 3 grids together? Does one grid now require more time? So on and so on. And it can be turned off at the very end of the collection. When you come in the mornings, most likely one of the GIS team or one of the H3 staff, we're going to help you log in the morning of, just to ensure that there's no issues, get you started with your tracking, send you on your way. And then when you come back, we can double check that it did upload all of your pins and we can sign you out. That way we don't see everybody going home or off to work or whatever you're doing for the rest of the day. Okay, so you've clicked on the map. This is most likely what you're seeing, but it will, like I said, center on the location that you are currently at. You have the option to look at where you have already canvassed, and you're going to do that by clicking on the stacked boxes at the top. And what it's going to show you is another My Tracks option. And for everybody, it should be toggled off. But if you want to be able to see like, oh, I don't remember going down that street, if you have this turned on, you can see a little like breadcrumb trail of where you have been. That is not mandatory to have on, but it might be useful for you as you're going through like tight knit neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Hey, Morgan, can I just pause for 1 second? So I think so many people are in this training, and there were so many instances of trying to log in and not having the right username and password. So there is an alternative in the chat. So Bear just dropped test_pit user 4. So if anybody is still having a hard time and it says that you've been locked, try that login credential. Sorry.
Yeah, let's pause for a minute and let folks catch up. Maybe I think if you're in, can you do if you know how to do a reaction, do a thumbs up reaction so we can kind of see how many people are actually set.
The password is still the same. And we are asking everybody to accept any of the prompts for tracking motion and fitness activity, location, all of that allows us to be able to provide the in the field support for you all.
The reason we canceled out on the password before is because that was a lowercase third C.
Yes.
Now it's an uppercase third C. That is different. Which one are we using?
It's the same one as before, right, Bear?
No.
Yeah, no,
small.
it is. It's capital C, lowercase c. That was fat fingers on my part. Sorry for all the confusion. Same password as before.
Yeah.
Keep doing the same thing that you guys have just applied, but it keeps every time I do it and I do it directly, exactly how you said, it keeps telling me I'm timed out.
I think it's the, I think it's
directly, Brandon.
Yeah, I think it's the same problem. I think that enough people entered an incorrect password that it's basically saying stop. It thinks it's being hacked. So let's just, yeah, I can put in one more, and this one is actually capital C, capital C, capital C. Let me try one last one.
And again, I will say this is a little tricky doing this remotely. So if folks cannot get this to work, and if you follow your handout after this training too, and it still is not working for you, we really encourage you to attend the in-person training on Friday or get to the observational count early at your kickoff site. We wish we could troubleshoot one-on-one with everyone, so bear with us.
All right, so that last one I put in there, test_pit user 3, capital C, capital C, capital C, ampersand, exclamation, $, 30%. And I will never make a password like that again. I didn't realize when I set that up, it was going to be a public password. My apologies.
And Jamie, I'll say, I think if we get stuck on this part, we can go through still and show people. And this is part of why we want you to come at 5:30, because we had a feeling this might be a little bit tricky to do remotely.
Okay, Morgan, we're going to ask you to go ahead and flow through the rest of the handout. It is okay if not everybody is in this exact point. We hope you're here, but if not, just follow along with Morgan's demo, please.
Okay. Okay, sorry. So most important part of this whole thing, other than the tracking, is going to be how you submit a PIN survey. So what you're going to do is you're going to select this blue plus button down at the bottom of your screen. And what it's going to show you is an interactive part of your map. What you can do is you can move and toggle this around so that this crosshair will move across the screen. Once you have selected a location for where you want your point, you're going to click that add a point, and it's going to show you a green check mark, and that is going to let you know that it registered that you placed a pin. If you need to change the location of that pin, super simple, you're just going to toggle this around again, and then you're going to select your update point. The map is very interactive. You can zoom in and zoom out. I will say, however, once you submit your survey at the very end, you cannot edit the point anymore. So if you need to update it, this is the time to do it. After that, you'll have to let us know at the kickoff site, hey, there was a problem with my pin. Once you have placed your point, it's going to ask you for the type of observation. This is going to be the first question that it wants you to fill out. And you're going to have two options. The first one is either you're observing a person or you're observing a setting. So let's say that you selected that you saw a person. It is going to ask you how many people you're observing. And sorry, my chat is going off. Okay, sorry. How many people you've observed? You're going to have the option between choosing 1, 2, or 3 people. If you come across 4 people, what you're going to do is you're going to select 3 for this observation. You're going to fill out the information for each one of those people, and then you'll submit, and you're going to place a second point at that same location, and you would fill it out for 1 person. Most likely you won't see more than 3 people, but in that event, we just ask you to fill out an additional survey for that location. As we mentioned, we're gathering the age and the gender, your best guess on those to help with deduplication. It's going to ask you for age, which is going to populate 3 possible answers. And again, you're just going to do your best guess. If you're really not sure, most likely you're going to wind up hitting adult. That would most likely be the age of the person. It is okay if you do not know. For the second question, for their gender, female, male, or unknown, unsure. And this is just to help us on the GIS team. If somebody was also in your grid and they happen to also place a point, we can try and see like, okay, does it look like they chose the same age? Did they choose the same gender? This most likely will be the same person. Not perfect, but we don't want to overwhelm you guys with a lot of questions on the survey. So once you have filled in that information, if you had put 2, you would see person 2 age and person 2 gender populate below person 1. Same thing with 3. It's super straightforward. So again, once you're done filling out all the information, your submit button is going to be up at the top. And once you have submit, you cannot make any changes to that point. I'm going to show you real quick what it would look like if you had chosen setting instead of a person. And this one is going to be a lot less questions because it is only going to ask you if you see a car, a van, an RV, a tent, or a makeshift shelter, or other. And if you do select other, it's going to populate a text box and you can do a free response for what you're seeing. Once you have filled that out, it's only going to be those 2 questions for settings only, the setting and then the type that it was, and you will hit the submit button again at the top. Placing the points is super straightforward. You might encounter a couple of errors. One that might come up is that it'll say that your feature isn't valid, and that's okay. It could just be that the app did not recognize that you had placed a point. So you're just going to try again. So in this instance, you would click OK and you would confirm the location of your pin and you would hit add point again. And it shouldn't come up. If it does, please call one of us and we will walk you through it. Another thing that might come up, especially in more rural areas and the cell service might be a little spotty, you'll get this poor location warning. And it just means that the GPS accuracy isn't quite within the threshold that was determined. That is okay. It is still going to collect that coordinate point. The GPS is more of a distance, and it's okay if that's off a little bit because we're just trying to get the general area of where you're seeing this encampment. It doesn't have to be like super, super exact. So in that instance, you will still use the poor location. Oh, one of the other errors that might come up, and I'm sorry, I did not have it on here. If you open up your survey, you start filling out the questions, and then you hit submit, it might say there's an error because there is no feature. And that's just because you forgot to add a pin to the map. It will not let you proceed until that requirement is fulfilled. So it will let you know. So don't worry if you filled out the survey and then you forgot to select your location, it is still going to prompt you for it at some point. I think those are the most common errors. Does anybody have any more specific questions? I think we can answer some.
Yeah, Morgan,
Yes.
quick question. So with the partner group, would the driver be doing a lot of these logins while and the partner is doing the login as well with the count?
Good question. Only one person is going to be doing the survey, and it should not be the driver. The driver's job is just to drive around and obviously communicate like, hey, we went down the street. The passenger is going to be the one doing all the point placement.
So I just treat myself like the limo driver at this point.
I will say we have so many volunteers, which is excellent this year. There are a handful of teams that will have 3 people. So the third person in the vehicle, we don't want you also in the app. What we would advise you to do is to help navigate, help observe. So you identify one primary person to be your data collection guru. And if multiple folks within your team are seeing multiple things, you just inform that data collector and they will drop a pin for every person and every sleep setting that they're seeing.
We are going to go over a couple slides that will kind of cover the setting that you're observing. We will do that now, but I do see in the chat somebody asking about multiple sleep settings. Glossed over that. If you see more than one tent at a certain location, you're going to drop a pin per tent. So if you see 3, you're going to submit 3 pins with the survey information. So it could be 2 tents and an RV all in the same area. And it is okay. You do not have to stand, well, at least for outreach, you do not have to stand in front of the tent or the RV or whatever to place the point. Because that map is interactive, you can move that point to where it is. So for our community people who are in their car on the street, but you see an encampment that, you know, might be 10 feet away, that is okay. You can place that point and that point's going to capture that location. For multiple, you can stack those points on top of each other. You don't have to specifically line it up for each one that you see. It is okay if you put 3 pins right on top of each other. So I hope that kind of helps answer that question. And then another one, test observations and submissions. Right now, you can do this all morning if you want to get super comfortable with the app. As long as you have that login, feel free to try all the different settings that you wish.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Morgan. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and switch over and we're going to go over a couple examples. So bear with me while I share my screen. Okay, is everybody seeing example 1 up in their screens? Okay, fantastic. So in this particular scenario, I will ask somebody to raise their hand or multiple people to raise your hand. What would you do in this scenario if you are a volunteer? You're going to drop a pin, and how are you going to describe this? Anybody brave enough? Ben, go ahead.
I'll do a person.
You're going to do a person. Perfect. When you drop that pin for the person, you then have to describe what you're seeing. How many people are you going to identify here?
I would do 1.
Perfect. How would you collect the rest of the data that the app is prompting you to collect?
Don't know gender, don't know age.
So gender allows you to do an unknown, unsure. For age, how would you describe that? Because you can't necessarily see that person.
Probably the 18 to 61.
Perfect. You nailed it. Great job, Ben. We appreciate your bravery. Okay, we're going to go on to example number 2. We'll give folks a second to take a look at what you're seeing here. Anybody want to take a best guess how you're going to describe what you're observing? Go ahead, Carl.
I dropped 3 pins, label them tent or other structure.
Perfect. You nailed it. Okay, we have one more example. Anybody willing to describe this observation and how you would track it in the app? I know there's more brave people in this room. It's not a trick question, I promise.
Sleep setting RV. It's raining.
Beautiful. To go, Joe. You nailed it. All right. And as I mentioned, we aren't trying to make this overly complicated. So if you see a scenario that you're observing and you are just not super sure, talk it over with your partner, come to an agreement, what makes the most sense. If you are still kind of racking your brains and you're just not sure, feel free to call your team leader. We're going to do our best to learn about what you're seeing and then describe a standardized way of collecting that data.
Real quick, I'm going to jump in. We did turn on our tracking location for this demo. So if you are done following along, that is okay. I'm going to recommend that you turn off the location tracking. You would just go back to that main gallery page where you toggled on the My Tracks, and you can toggle it off. Or you can completely sign out of the application itself, and that will also turn off the tracking as well. We kind of forget about that during the training, so we sometimes see everybody go off driving around the county until their tracking turns off. So I just recommend that for everybody.
Thank you, Morgan. And this is worth repeating multiple times as well. This is just your test login credentials. So we do encourage everybody to eventually, if you want to play around with the app and the tool and do your test pins, we encourage that. But eventually we want you to sign out so that on the morning of, when you get your packet, you're going to have team specific credentials so that we can make sure you're in your very specific assigned Canvas area. So you will log in with a whole different set of credentials on that morning. Okay, so let's move along and talk about what to do if for some reason there's a kerfuffle while you're in the field. So we do have backup plans. We know that technology, as cool and exciting as it is, sometimes can act a little bit quirky. So if for whatever reason your phone dies and nobody has a power pack and you don't have a car charger, we don't want you to stop your assignment. You're already out, you already woke up. We want you to continue with your canvassing. That's why you have maps in your packet. And believe it or not, for about 12 years, we did all of this without apps, and people navigated just fine and dandy for the most part. So you have those backup maps and you can navigate those with your partner. But what we want you to do is we want you to drop a number on your map as you're seeing observations. And this is going to allow us to be able to include the observations that you're seeing, even if they're not identified in the app. So say you're driving along the road and you see something, you're like, I need to collect this data. You put a number 1 as close to the area that you're making this observation. Then you go to your hard copy tool, which you see up here on the screen, and you'll have many of these copies in your packet. You put your number 1, you put the map number that you're in, and that map number will be on your map. So you'll see that very clearly at the top of your page. And then you put an estimated time around when you saw that observation. And you just describe in the same way that you do in the app exactly what you're seeing. For number 1, we saw a person, so we don't need to describe the sleep setting, and we're doing our best guess for the person's age and the person's gender. You're going to keep going forward with your assignment with that flow. When you get to your next section, put a 2 on your map. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly precise, but as close to that location as possible. And then we're able to take this data and then add it onto the app so that all of your observations will be included in the total count. Any questions there? I do want to say, this is not the preferred way we're asking you to collect the data. This is worst case scenario and you can't get your app to work. The app goes a lot more smoothly. It's quite easy and it only takes a few seconds to drop a pin and describe the pin. So that's going to be the best way for you to collect this data, but this is a backup plan for you. I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Okay, I don't see any questions or concerns. Perfect. Okay, we just want to let you know that our hub website is still up and running. We did close our volunteer recruitment survey because we reached over 200 volunteers. So no new folks can use the survey. I will just say, I mentioned this earlier, if you are here at this training because a different person identified you as their partner, or they were excited about this opportunity and they were like, hey, come join this incredible community event. That's great. We're happy to have you here, but let us know, because we need to make sure if you show up at a kickoff site in the morning and you did not complete that survey, we need to make sure we've got you teamed up with a partner and you're going the right place. And we have all of your paperwork, for all of those extenuating circumstances. So please let us know, drop your information in the chat or just say, hey, contact me, or you can reach out to the Contra Costa COC at cchealth.org email. And then there's a bunch of other resources. Morgan and Bear mentioned that the mobile demo handouts that we just reviewed are on our website. There's a handful of other just like methods, descriptions, lots of exciting and riveting reading material. So if you want more information, this is the place to go. Okay, so we are going to move along to the disaster service worker section of this training. We have Teresa here who's going to guide you through a swearing in process. Just as a reminder, we ask any non-county employees, if you're not a county employee, we want you to fill out this form and email it to Contra Costa COC at cchealth.org. We have received many forms already, so we're hoping we are already in possession of your form. The most important pieces of information on that form is just your descriptive information with your name and your address, and the date of birth does say optional, but Teresa is really emphasizing that there's multiple people with the same first and last name. So if something were to happen, she wants to make sure she's filling out a report for the right person. And we will be in touch. We're going to review all of those forms today. If we're missing your form, we're going to reach out to you. It's really important that we have that. So Teresa, I'm going to hand it over to you if that's okay. And let me just make sure Teresa's still here.
She was here. Let's see. She was here. Yep, I see her. Teresa, you're muted if you're trying to talk. In fact, let me make you a co-host just to like make sure you've got all the things you need. Can't hear you. Are you here? Can you write in the chat? Let me try pinging her via the other. I know she logged on.
Let's say I saw her earlier.
Yep.
While we're getting the logistics figured out for Teresa, I will also say that completing this form does not commit you to having to be a volunteer for every Contra Costa County activity. This is really important for us to make sure that we have liability coverage in the event that something were to happen. Homelessness is a local, state, and federal declared emergency. Again, which is how we have the ability from a state level to provide potential coverage, again, just under those worst case scenario circumstances.
I have not. I'm pinging her via my other channels. I'm going to send out the bat signal. Teresa, if you're here, we're going seance. If we're here, can you give us a sign? Something in the chat.
And I will also say there is a little bit of a formality that we're all going to participate in. We are leaning on Teresa to be engaged in this process because she has formal authority to do a swearing in process. So she's going to get us all officially certified, which none of us have those authorized rights.
And Jamie, there's a question in the chat about where we access the form. It was in the email. Yes, it was in the email, and it's also on the hub. Dana, do you mind dropping the link to the hub again? The good news is this is shorter than
the hub as well. So
Okay.
definitely in the recruitment section, there's a
Great.
bottom
Thank you.
underneath the survey where you can download the form.
Awesome. And this is actually shorter than the like multi-page thing we used to have to do. So I don't know what is happening with Teresa. Let me see if I can call her.
I have a quick clarification question.
Sure. Go for it.
With these forms, is there a way you can go back to make sure that I've done them? Like, I mean, I think I have, I'm sure that I have, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, in this scenario, no news is good news. So if we're going to do our double check, make sure all of our volunteers are attending trainings and have completed their forms. So if you don't hear anything from us, you're good to go. Over the next day or so, if you receive a few email communications, we're just going to knock down your door until we get all of the information so you're ready to participate on that morning. Great question, Joe.
Okay, so I just tried calling and I went to voicemail. So
and you do not need to provide a photo. You can if you want to. Teresa will keep that in her file and her records in a very safe space, but it's not a requirement, or we will still accept your form if a photo is not attached. We did get some really lovely photos of all the volunteers, though, I will say.
yes, and actually, yeah, I won't even go there.
Hello?
That'll make it complicated. Oh, there we go. Yay.
Yeah, you're here. Okay, perfect.
How are you?
We're doing fantastic. We just did a little bit of a brief of your section and why folks are here and what's being asked of them. I just want to be very mindful of the time. The training ends at 10:30, so we're going to hand it over to you.
Sounds good.
Take us through the swearing process.
All right, sounds good. So welcome everyone. My name is Teresa Day Boone. I'm the volunteer program coordinator for Contra Costa County. And I am I will be swearing you in today, and I am actually a deputy, so I'm sworn in to swear you in. So today, we're going to be doing this virtual, and all the paperwork that you have completed will be with the core team. So what I'm going to have you to do at this point is to raise your right hand. When I say I, just state your name. If you could come off mute real quick, I'd appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. So raise your right hand. When I say I, please state your name as loud and clear as you can. I,
Eric Bauer.
Dean Lesmeister.
all right, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State.
Hey. Guys.
That I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. I certify under penalty of perjury under the laws of the State of California that the foregoing is true and correct. I do.
I do.
I do.
All right. Congratulations, you have been sworn in as a guest service.
We're deputies now.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Okay, so we are at the end of our training time. If any folks want to hang tight and get one-on-one support, myself, a handful of other H3 staff, and our Department of IT staff will be available. So feel free to just kind of linger if you have some more questions. Again, we do have that additional training. The information for that training on Friday that's in person is on our website, so feel free to refer to that. And then otherwise, we will see everybody on Wednesday, next Wednesday, 1 week from today. We're going to see you bright and early at 5:30 at your kickoff site. Make sure you're checking your emails because we're sending your maps out today and tomorrow.
And Jamie, I see Ben has his hand up. I don't know if it's an old hand or a new hand.
It must be an old hand. I thought I had lowered it.
We have another Ben Miyagi. Do you have a question we can support for you, Ben?
That may have been raising his hand.
No, thank you. That's an old hand.
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Okay, shall I end it?
No, let's just hang tight to see if anybody
Okay.
has any app support.
Oh, yes, thank you.
But we've got folks falling off. So, we'll
So,
just
yeah, if I could get the app location again, I will delete the app I've got and try again, because what I have doesn't match what you have at all.
okay, yes. So I'm gonna type it in the chat for you, Carl.
All right, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yep, it's called, and actually, let me
This
go.
is for an Android, so I think you need to be in the Google store.
I went through Google Store.
And it bear with me 1 second. It should look like the logo, the icon on your right.
Correct. That's exactly what it looks like.
Okay. ArcGIS Field Maps
Yep.
should be the
That
name.
It even says field maps. And it doesn't give me an opportunity to sign in.
You see that white bar that says sign in.
Nope.
At the top, it should be like a menu drop down, and then the sign in is going to be all the way at the bottom.
It might also look like an empty profile picture that you click on.
Well, I know what it might look like. It doesn't look like any of those things. I mean, I saw what it could look like in your demonstration. When I hit the three buttons, the three dot icon, base map, bookmarks, down to share map, there's no sign in opportunity. That is, the phone, my device is signed in, apparently. I can hit the waffle for layers, and that gives me nothing else to do. And I can do a search, but that's probably not helpful.
It sounds
Are
like
you in the
he's
gallery
in
or are
the
you
map.
looking at a map?
He's in the map.
I'm
He's
looking
looking
at a
at
map
maps.
of my street.
Okay,
I
you're gonna go back to the gallery.
can go back to gallery.
Can
And
you sign out? Is there an option to sign out?
I have not.
On the iPhone, there's a little circle in the upper left-hand corner with like a symbol of a person. If you click on that, scroll down, there's a sign out option.
I just clicked out and tried to click back in, and now it wants me to sign in.
sign.
Okay, I don't know how I got there. So is it ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise?
Online.
Online, okay. Damn, I hate it when things work just fine, but I don't know how I did it.
Hey, we're getting you to the place we're trying to go, so that's.
Well, yeah. Okay,
Carl,
so.
Carl,
so
have you ever used AGOL before? I'm just wondering if you
Yeah.
have some sort of saved credentials that it automatically logged you in.
I'm guessing that that's what it was doing, but by messing with it enough, I've now confused it and it's logged me out. So now I can sign in. We changed the sign in a couple times. It's still test underscore PIT 4, correct?
Pit user. So test underscore pit user 4 will work.
Okay, so, and the sign in is going to be case sensitive.
Yes, so for the password, you want capital C, lower C.
Wait a minute, I'm still working on signing in, or the sign in. So I'm at capital T test.
Oh, that one actually is not, the username is not case sensitive, so that's
what I was asking. All right, so it's test underscore pit user, correct?
yeah, pit user 1, 2, or 4.
Okay, so I'm going to
I also
suggest
put it in
that
the
next
chat
time
for
around,
you.
you guys pick easier sign-ins and passwords for this, because
So that's actually wrong, Morgan. This is 4 is
jumping
lower
around
C.
back and forth between screens to sign in doesn't make any sense. All right, so capital PIT. No, damn it, it dropped it. All right, capital PIT, capital U in user. And once I get to user, it's just a 4 or a number 4?
The number 4.
The number 4, okay. But
It's
no,
also in
no
the
pound.
Zoom chat.
That's
as
the
well.
wrong password though. User 4 is capital C, lower C.
You, okay, never
All
mind.
right.
Yeah, I did that.
Cap C, lower C, ampersand, exclamation, dollars, 30%. Christ, I don't even have a percent on this screen.
So
Let's
hit
see
the
if I can-
so the button that you hit to get to that numbers and symbols, hit that again, and that should bring
Yeah.
you to the.
My session has timed down. Try again. Damn. All right. Now I'm going to save that password. And I'm going to try again.
Try pit user 1 or 2.
No, I think it's going forward. It just took me so long to hit the combinations. All right. So I'm now looking at a screen that shows me 2023 point in time count. All right. I've got a map. I think I'm there.
You're there, and go ahead and look at those handout and the information that we emailed or access it on the hub.
Yep.
Do your own demo, try to drop a couple different types of pins with different number of people, different sleep settings, navigate that, try to move your little marker around on the map, try to edit it. So go through some of those scenarios. If you still are struggling for whatever reason, we have that Friday in-person training, or we'll give you that one-on-one support on the morning of. So keep us posted with how things are going.
Okay. No, I think the map will work just fine, or is working just fine. Yeah, and I've got the cells now. All right. And I've saved that password and user on the phone at this point. Is that going to be the same one next week?
No, you'll have a
Good.
new one on the morning, and it will be front and center in your packet. So you can't
Okay.
miss it, but we're gonna have stations. So everybody's gonna guide you through the process.
Fantastic. I'm not worried about that end of it. All right. And I look forward to finding out
Where you're
my
going.
assignment and all of that. We're good to go.
Very good, Carl. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. Joe, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to have this one and there was a bunch of other people on the line, but there was a conversation about taking photos, like we would be the ones taking photos. How is that? Do you still want us to take photos and how is it being shared?
We're asking people to kind of do one or the other. So if you're a PIT volunteer and you're doing your Canvas assignment, which you are, we want you to be very focused on that. We do have some volunteers who can support taking pictures at the kickoff sites. We have to be mindful and careful about taking pictures of the unsheltered population. So you would have to get some kind of permission or approval to take a person's photo and then to share that in any type of setting. So it would be a larger ask. So don't worry about
right on, because that was my question too, is exactly what you just brought up. Like if I'm out there doing the canvassing and taking pictures, like how does that work? But that's not what I'm taking pictures of. Great. Thanks a bunch.
Snap a photo of you and your partner, like you can totally do that, or as a setting that you're at, but we don't want you necessarily taking photos of people's faces.
Love it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, I don't know if you want to take Joe Bruno's question first, because mine is pretty off topic, but Jamie Jeanette introed us and it's about community outreach.
Yeah, we just answered Joe's questions. I think we're good to go.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm with Hope Solutions and also with the Multi-Faith Action Coalition, and we're involved in a breakthrough grant through San Francisco Foundation and LISC, specifically in Antioch, where we are working on the creation of policy to spur housing production, affordable housing production for individuals who have faced homelessness or housing insecurity.
Okay.
It's a part of our effort. We are doing community organizing in Antioch. We've been doing a series of listening sessions, both with Antioch residents, as well as with individuals and families who are unsheltered.
Okay.
So, for example, on Friday, we're going out to Loaves and Fishes. We've been to outreach centers, and we wondered as a team if it was at all possible to expand our efforts of the point in time count to include questions around microhomes and that as a housing product or option for people. We do have a survey that we completed with a QR code, and also we have it physically. And look, I completely and totally, I've done the point in time count many times, and I get the complexity of, like, you want us to do our job. And I'm curious if you would be open-minded to our expanding our scope somewhat. It would be amazing for us. And Jamie said, I have to ask you.
For the observational count, we're not interacting with anybody. So that's not an opportunity to conduct a survey, because we're saying just track whatever it is that you're observing. We do have the period of time where we do survey sampling. I would say we don't want to incorporate, we're only doing a small proportion of the sheltered and unsheltered like interviews with those folks, because we don't have the capacity and the resources to interview everybody. What I would say is we could have an offline conversation if you need the COC's support, figuring out how to identify service providers in Antioch or getting access to unsheltered or sheltered folks in that area. I would say it would complicate things a lot, adding it on to PIT. But I think our COC can be really helpful in getting you the right contacts, identifying potential people to complete your survey questions. We just don't want to lump it all together, because then not everybody would have the same opportunity to answer all the questions. And your interests sound like it's a very targeted at specific area, specific questions about certain types of housing. So I think we could talk about what that support would look like, but not tied to the PIT, if that makes sense.
Of course. Okay. So should I follow up with you directly or with
Jamie Schechter is going to be your best bet. Jamie Schechter and Jamie J. And I think I responded to one of your or Meredith's emails earlier this week. So I've got you on my radar. We can talk about what support you're in seek of, like if you need people to help administer surveys, or if you're just trying to identify the population, we'll figure out what support we can offer and what our
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm so grateful. Okay, so I'll circle back and we'll take it from there. And thank you so much for considering this.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks so much for being a volunteer, Jasmine.
Okay, take good care.
You too. Thank you.
Great training, everyone. Really well done.
Thank you.
You well.
Handful, or actually, I just see Lori Taylor. Are we able to help you with the app? I think you're our last volunteer. Everybody else is staff. Bye, Jasmine. Or maybe Lori's just hanging tight.
Or maybe she just forgot to log off.
Yeah, Lori going once, going twice. Okay, I think we're good to go, team. Thanks everybody so much. I think this went as good as it could have possibly gone with the new remote world that we live in.
Well, we'll see Friday morning. I mean, Pitt morning, how how it goes.
Yes, so Friday, for folks who can attend the in-person training, we'd love to have as many people involved. There were quite a few people who didn't attend today's that we were thinking would, and some of our own staff. So yeah, if you have any questions or issues about the Friday training, just keep me posted. But if not, we'll see you then.
Bye all.
Thanks everybody.